Candy?
Yeah. Yeah.
A little bit dressed down.
I was just, you can borrow my, you want to wear it? Yeah.
Beautiful. You're out playing basketball?
Yeah, why weren't there any men inside there? I'm actually very
Shall you see Serena?
women's basketball league.
Where's a bird proof real estate? I'm gonna get you 1 second.
My people!
Suspect, we're going to start with a couple of chants. Get ourselves gassed up, ready to go, okay?
Yes.
Our families are suffering, and we can't wait. We need parole justice in New York State. Our families are suffering, and we can't wait. We need parole justice in New York State. Our families are suffering, and we can't wait. We need parole justice in New York State. Our families are suffering, and we can't wait. We need parole justice in New York State.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Tiana Taylor, and I am with the People's Campaign for Parole Justice. I'm also a daughter of an incarcerated father. Today, we are here. Well, first let me say the People's Campaign for Parole Justice is a grassroots coalition of 17 organizations with support of over 300 organizations across New York State. And we're here to fight for our platform of bills. That is the Elder Parole Bill and the Fair and Timely Parole Bill. The Fair and Timely Parole Bill says that everyone who goes before a parole board will be viewed for who they are today, and they will be viewed holistically. And these are for people who are already parole eligible. The Elder Parole Bill says that everyone who is incarcerated and is 55 or older and has served at least 15 years of their sentence gets a shot to see the parole board. That means that some of the oldest and sickest incarcerated people in New York State will at least get a chance for consideration to be free and live out their last years and decades with family and loved ones. So, without further ado, I'll bring up our first speaker, Jose Saldana.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you very much for the support and for just coming out here on this humid, hot day. Behind me are graves. They're symbolic. They're symbolic of a history, and every one of them has an individual story. The one I'm holding is the story of a friend of mine. He was sick and dying when I left him in Green Haven. And he asked me that if I can, to go to Puerto Rico, Old San Juan, and go to the cemetery where Don Pedro Albizu Campos is buried, the great Puerto Rican nationalist leader. Take a picture of that gravesite and send it to him. I did that. Within a month after I was released, I went to Puerto Rico and got the picture that he wanted. When I was about to send it to him, he had already died. He was 75 years old, had been in prison for 40 years, and died. Behind me, old man Shasha, 58 years old, died. Stephen Allen, 59. Sheikh Noah, 60. Countless men and women. They represent nearly thousands and thousands of black, Latinx, even white, incarcerated people in New York State. Lulu Benson, Val Gator, these are representatives of a system that kills. The New York State Parole Board is a serial killer. The New York State prisons, New York State Department of Corrections promote genocide against people of color. We are advocating for a moderate approach to correcting generations of racial injustice in New York State. A moderate approach. 2 bills that is just the first step toward addressing this viral evil that is called racism. And our elected leaders are not supporting these 2 bills. That is a major, fundamental contradiction with our leaders. Their failure to support racial justice only sustains it and gives it more life. 50 years ago, men and women, women also stood up, but the men, in support of the men at Attica Correctional Facility, who stood up for parole justice. That was their major demand, parole justice, 50 years ago, and since then, literally, tens of thousands of people have perished in our prison system. And this is the history that our electors are totally disregarding. This is the condition that they fail to address. And I want to just add, and I have to say this, because it's the only way to describe their failure. They have reduced themselves from being leaders to spectators watching a mass lynching. That's what they have reduced themselves to. By allowing black and Latinx people to continuously, decade after decade, generation after generation, die in New York State prisons with no regard to the tens and thousands of black and Latinx families who will forever suffer the death of their loved ones. Again, thank you all for coming.
What do we want?
Parole justice!
When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
Parole justice!
When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
Parole justice!
When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
Parole justice!
What do we want?
Parole justice!
What do we want?
Parole justice!
Thank you. Thank you so much for that, Jose. That was such a powerful testimony. And he's right. Our loved ones deserve a shot at redemption and to be reunified with their families. We don't want another person, another loved one, another human being to die behind bars. Next up, we have Assemblymember Emily Gallagher.
Hello everyone, I am Emily Gallagher. I am the Assembly Member from the 50th District, and I am here to speak out for parole justice. We as a state have a duty to be looking after the most vulnerable first. And those who we have put in prison become vulnerable because we have stripped them of all of their autonomy, and they become completely dependent upon the jail and upon the state to do the right thing. I believe that people can evolve and grow and have experiences that change their lives. And that is supposedly what we are asking people to do when we send them to prison. We know that that is not actually what happens. We know that we abuse and torture people in prison. And I am saying that it is time to stop keeping people in prison for extreme long periods of time. The way that the parole board works is abusive, and it does not work. It is a broken system, and as a legislator, it is my obligation to fix this. I believe that everyone has the opportunity and the right to come out and have a renewed life. We need to give this back to the people we have abused in our state systems. And the only way that we can do that is through parole justice. So I'm here fighting for these bills, and I absolutely want to say that I am with you till the end of this. We have to fix this system. It is a broken system. We outlawed the death penalty, but this is a different version of the death penalty. To allow people to die in prison is the death penalty. So let's outlaw this too. Let's get everyone out of prison that has transformed themselves and give them a new opportunity to have a renewed life. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Assemblymember. She's right. We can no longer allow the parole board to be a racist and abusive resentencing body. Next up, we have Assemblymember Damon Meeks.
What do we want? When do we want it? What do we want? When do we want it? You know, I'm from Rochester, New York, representing the 137th Assembly District. I've seen this firsthand in my community. I had met a brother by the name of William Booker who came home from Attica after serving 37 years in prison. He became a leader in the community. He took mentees under his wing. He taught them about the law. He actually educated and became a leader in our housing justice fight throughout Rochester. And he did a number of great things in our community before the Lord called him home. But he was one who spent 37 years in prison. And one of the things that they didn't talk about as it related to his walk in his life was the young man that he took under his wing while he was incarcerated. He talked to them about making a better way for themselves. He talked to them about making better decisions. Don't go and get involved and engage in those type of activities. So these brothers have become mentors even during their incarceration. Another brother in Rochester by the name of Jalil Montequim, who served 49 years in prison. He came home doing the right thing, but the system is so flawed. They told him to go to the Department of Social Services and fill out this paperwork. And there was one thing on the end of that paperwork, which was a voter registration form. Do y'all believe that they charged this man with a felony and tried to bring him up on additional charges to send him back to prison? It's definitely not right. And I thank God for a grand jury that found a no bill. But I'm here to say that we need parole justice and we need it now. And we give a lot of energy to mayoral races and gubernatorial races, but we need to give that same type of energy to these judicial races and these district attorney races. It's a racist system, it's broken, and we cannot continue to stand for it. Parole justice now. Thank you.
Parole justice now! 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 Parole justice now!
Thank you so much for that, Assemblymember Meeks. We need a change, and we need to start with the elder parole and fair and timely parole bills and keep going from there. Next up, we have RAP community leader, Donna Robinson.
Thank you so much, everybody, for coming out. These tombstones that they have and people are holding, that's only a small amount of the number of citizens who have been murdered by the state of New York. I'm calling it what it is. It's murder. When you take somebody out of their zip code, hold them hostage because they can't afford a lawyer, and incarcerate them for 25, 35, 45. There's a man in Coxsackie who has been incarcerated since I was 8 years old. That ain't right. That's insanity. And we call ourselves the Empire State. There's nothing empirical about what you're doing to our loved ones. I'm not just speaking out for the people who have been incarcerated for decades and decades, but the ones who time has forgotten about. You lock them up and throw away the key. My daughter is one of these people. She's serving 15 to life at Bedford Hills Community. It's not a correctional, an incorrectional facility. You're not trying to correct anything. It doesn't take 45, 50 years to do anything. I'm a firm believer. 10,000 hours. You do something consecutively for 10,000 hours. You got that. You got that. So why are you holding them? For punishment, I can just look. It's a paradigm of perpetual punishment. You are killing our future. You're killing our generation. The parents are incarcerated, the grandparents, the brothers and sisters. You leave them out here to fend for themselves. And where do you think they're going to end up if these shenanigans don't stop in New York State? Darlene Lulu Benson Say is from Buffalo, New York, where I currently reside, where they came and kidnapped my daughter. 61 years old. This woman had a heart attack in January. After the surgery, you sent her back to bed. She got the virus and passed away in April. At the age of 61. That ain't right. She left behind 12 brothers and sisters, 2 children, grandchildren, who missed her every day. I talked to her sister, and she cries to me about what a great person she was. And my daughter tells me how she was behind that wall. Everyone is worthy of redemption. Nobody's the same. Love. If you think this person standing behind you is the same person I was 25, 35, 40 years ago. You as crazy as that shit, okay? We need to stop persecuting and holding people accountable for a mistake. The worst thing that they've done. That's not going to change. We can't go back and change the past, but we can change the future, and the time is not now. It's right now. It is right now. The worst thing that I have been experiencing since I've been working with the releasing aging people in prison was the loss of Valerie Gator. I will never forget Valerie Gator. I'll never forget Valerie Gator because, yes, she did commit a crime. It was bad. But she was 19 years old. 19, your brain isn't fully, look, my brain isn't fully developed and I'm 65. I'ma just keep it real. But you kept her. A 50-year life sentence. 50 years. Well, she only got to live to serve 41 of them. And Valerie Gator mentioned everybody that came through those gates. And my daughter was one of them. Because she didn't know about that life. She'd never been in no trouble, but you get caught up in things that you never even thought would happen to you. So now she's like a fish out of water. Miss Val put her arms around her and told her to keep her head up, do what you gotta do. And we are fighting, not just the ones you see here. Oh, don't get it twisted. We got a lot of people behind us. So you can either get on board with the program or you can get left behind, and you will be leaving behind a legacy of a big fail. Because right now, New York State, you're a big fail. So free our elders, pass fair and timely parole, get our loved ones back to raise their children, to tell that young man, that young woman, that little boy that's walking around with a gun in his pocket at 9 years old don't even know what that could get him. That sentence on the incest life, not death. But you've been killing black and brown, Latinx people for too long. It's got to end now. Pass fair and timely parole, pass elder parole, and pass it now.
Our families are suffering, and we can't wait. We need parole justice in New York State. Our families are suffering, and we can't wait. We need parole justice in New York State. Our families are suffering, and we can't wait. We need parole justice in New York State. Our families are suffering, and we can't wait. We need parole justice in New York State.
Thank you so much for that powerful testimony, Donna. You are right. No more of our mentors, our parents, our grandparents should die behind bars. Next up, we have Assemblymember Jessica Gonzalez Rojas.
It is hard to talk after Donna. My name is Jessica Gonzalez Rojas. I am an assembly member from Queens. And within the first 30 days of being elected to office, myself, Assembly Member Zahra Mandani, and Assembly Member Amanda Septimo went to Bedford Hills. And we met Donna's daughter. And we met so many women who were locked up without a semblance of justice. And I remember they gave us a beautiful tour, a PR tour of their facility. But when we sat down with the women, we heard injustice after injustice after injustice. And we asked the question, have you been prepared for parole board? Have you had the opportunity to get training and feel ready to make your case? And one woman told us that she walked into the parole board hearing without knowing she was walking into the parole board hearing. She was unprepared, and clearly she stood before us so she did not pass that hearing. That is not okay. We have a duty and a responsibility to change this system. It is not just. It keeps our people locked up, and when they're even able to get out, it prevents them to provide opportunities for housing, education, and to live with dignity. And that's what we're here to do. That's what we're here to do. And I just can't thank you all enough. We were standing here just an hour ago fighting for the Clean Slate Act. Right here we're fighting for elder parole, for fair and timely. There's so much work to do. For elder parole, 55 years old plus, have done 15 years. It is time we get this done. It is time. We have no more time to waste. And I want to thank you. There are too many lives that we've already lost, and I demand that we get this done now. We are here with you. Thank you so much.
Right now! Parole justice 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 now!
Thank you so much, Assembly Member. We need this done now. So now we'll bring up the rest of our elected officials who joined us today, and they will say their remarks. We have Assemblymember Khalil Anderson, Assemblymember Harvey Epstein, and Assemblymember Zohran Mamdani. Thank you.
The youngest first.
The youngest first? Okay. Wow, that's the first time that's benefited me. All right. Are we fired up?
Yeah!
Do we have the energy? I don't hear it on this side. Do we have the energy? We need today. I'm just going to take this off. We need today to free our elders. We need to pass fair and timely parole here in the state of New York. My name is Khalil Anderson, and I represent the 31st Assembly District in Southeast Queens. And what the prison industrial complex has been is a labor mill for black and brown bodies, where we overly punish folks for crimes that they might have committed when they were younger. And we put them in a space where they continue to be a part of a labor mill for our prisons, making materials and things that we use in our offices and all across the state of New York. And what we're saying with this bill is that we have to end this cycle. We got to release these folks. We have to end the racist parole board that never lets us free. And we have to be fired up about it because the powers that be want us locked up. They do, because it makes them money. And when I visited the Green Haven detention facility with my colleague, Assemblymember Epstein, we saw how this system perpetuates itself onto folks who've committed crimes, but have been rehabilitated. They have a commissary where items are $4, but you're making less than $1 an hour. It's perpetuating itself. And so these are the experiences that folks need to hear, because every piece of legislation, just like these two bills that we're pushing to pass now, has a story behind it and a story to tell. So I'm calling on our leadership, I'm calling on the executive to allow this bill to pass so we can free our elders now. So we can free our elders now. Thank you very much, everyone.
My name is Zohran Kwame Mamdani. I'm an assembly member. I represent Astoria and Northwest Queens. And I have to ask that we bring an energy so loud in this moment that we can be heard inside this legislative building. So are we ready for parole justice? I said, are we ready for parole justice? Because when you go through those doors, they tell you that only certain bills could pass in the next few days. They tell you only certain things are palatable. And we must be heard out here to make it clear that it is the reality of what is happening in our prisons and in our jails that must determine the action that we take. And the reality that is happening is death. It is violence. It is the degradation of dignity for New Yorkers across this state. And I want those of you who are at home, who are listening to this, to ask yourselves, do you feel safer because a 64-year-old woman with a cane is locked up in Bedford Hills Correctional Facility? Do you feel safer with our elders being put in cages at the cost of up to $240,000 a year? We pay that money through the coins in our pockets, and we pay that money with the price it takes from our souls. Because incarcerated New Yorkers are still New Yorkers. We still represent them. They are part of our districts. They are part of our neighborhoods. They are our neighbors. But we have locked them up and we have thrown away the key. And let's be clear and not mince words about this. This isn't racially tinged. This isn't racially biased. This is racist. That's what this is. You see overwhelming black and brown bodies put in cages across this state. That is not a reflection of all of those who are doing crimes in our state. It's a reflection of who we are prosecuting and persecuting. So remember that when we fight for these bills, we are fighting for those that our society has left behind. And when we ran for office, we ran to ensure that no voice would be left unheard in these halls. And the work that you are doing is to bring those voices with you and through these walls and into those chambers. Because they say that a week in Albany is a lifetime. And what we are here debating is saving these lifetimes. And so it is up to us to say that in these next 3 days of legislative session for the calendar year of 2021, in these 72 hours, we will pass these bills. And we will pass them in addition to the other bills that we must pass for justice. We will not make false choices between one set of necessary changes and another. We will put them together, we will pass them together, and we will take back the dignity of our brothers, sisters, and family beyond the binary that have been left behind and forgotten for far too long. So let me hear you if you are ready for parole justice. Are you ready for parole justice? Are you ready for fair and timely parole? Are you ready for elder parole? Because I am ready. And if it means we sleep out here tonight to force the issue, then that is what we must do. If it means that we rally every day, then that is what we must do. Because we cannot leave this left behind by Friday. We must pass this now. Thank you very, very much.
Hi, my name is Harvey Epstein, Assembly Member from Manhattan of the 74th District. So, conservatives always say that they're fiscally conservative. They're here to save us money. But here is a fiscally conservative, life-saving approach to humanity. We are saying, if you've been incarcerated 15 years, over 55, the recidivism rate's 2%. Send someone back in society, restore their livelihood, restore their family, and save hundreds of thousands of dollars per person. That's fiscally conservative. That's morally conservative. That's the right thing to do. And they, time and time again, say that we on the progressive side don't care about finances. We care about finances. We care about morals. We care about humanity. We care about justice. This is about justice. This is how you move forward to a just society. We say, read the names. Think about the families. Think about their lives. Think about the impact they could have to improve our society if we let them go. Think about what they could do to improve everyone's lives if we let them go. There are thousands of people being held. It's just costing us millions of dollars because we don't believe in corrections as a society. We believe in punishment. I'm here to change the conversation. This is around justice, equity, and corrections. Who here hasn't made a mistake? Who here can live in a glass house? The chances are none of us. So the question we have to answer is, can we take someone's experiences over the last 15, 20, 40, 60 years and say, you showed how much you've given back to society, you deserve a second chance to go. That's what we can do in the next 3 days, to change the conversation to say, this is about justice, this is about equity, fair and timely parole, be our elders. We will continue to fight till we get this done. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Assembly members. We need this done now. Within the next 72 hours, our bills must be passed. No more deaths behind bars. Next up, we have Executive Director for New Hour, Serena Lugori.
At 21 years old, I came home from prison. The woman I left behind there, whose name is Linda, made a birthday cake for my 21st birthday. That was over 20 years ago. She's still there, languishing, over 70 years old. She's not a danger to our community. Among the group here, the largest campaign across New York State for parole justice, bigger than any campaign I've seen yet to date. We have over 310 years among the family and the women and the men behind me who are representing those who've been incarcerated. That number, 310 years of death and despair, this is something that our Long Island lawmakers have turned a blind eye to. We are here today from New Hour as campaign partners for the People's Campaign to say no more death behind bars. Please, we are begging for the collect calls I get every day in my office from a woman named Deb who will not come out of prison without this bill. She will have no fighting chance, and she will most likely die behind bars without fair and timely, without elder parole. We're concerned about public safety. What we need to be concerned about are the murders that we ourselves are responsible for by keeping people who are safe to come home. They need to come home. We are asking today something sensible, something common sense, something that is measured and thoughtful. It is, you've done your time, you deserve a fighting chance to return to your community and give back. As grandmothers and grandfathers, as elders, as people who've created amazing programs behind bars, that's what we're begging. That's what we're asking for. We believe in redemption, not retribution. What we believe in is the spirit and the power of those of us who've been incarcerated to come home and help others. There are men and women who have so much to give. Some of them are here today, and they are giving so much back to the community. We are asking our lawmakers to prioritize lives. We need our elders home. Thank you.
Wow, 310 years, and probably more of years of our loved ones behind bars. It's too much. Our families can't take it anymore. Next up, we have Carolyn Cowan with CPC.
Good afternoon. Parole justice cannot and should not wait. We need to pass this right now. My name is Carolyn Cowan. I'm here on behalf of the Chinese American Planning Council and the Campaign for New York Health. Parole justice is a racial justice issue. Parole justice is an economic justice issue. And parole justice is a public health issue. We know that our elders and our loved ones are not healthy when they are locked up. Mass incarceration is a public health crisis. Do you know when our elders and our families are healthy? They are healthy when they are home with their families. Our elders and our families and our loved ones are healthy when we invest in care, in health care, in mental health care, and not in cages. And during COVID, if we have not learned that, in fact, mass incarceration is a public health crisis, then I do not know when we will learn that lesson. And let's be clear, it has been a public health crisis for long before. When my brother was incarcerated as a type 1 diabetic, he could not get the medical care or the insulin that he needed, and he is still facing the health consequences of that years later. Not to mention being locked out of housing and employment, which is why we also need to pass Clean Slate right now. And we hear that story again and again and again. It is not right, and it does not have to be this way. So if we are talking about a just recovery from COVID, it must include parole justice. There is no other way forward. We need to pass this now. We need to do this now. It cannot wait. Lives are at stake.
Pass those bills, save some lives. Pass those bills, save some lives. Pass those bills, save some lives. Pass those bills, save some lives.
Thank you. Next up, we have Anthony Dixon with the Parole Preparation Project.
Thank you, thank you. I was in prison for 32 years. I've been out for 5 years now. Were it not for the Parole Preparation Project, it's likely that I too would still be in these greens. I wore this today in unison with the countless men and women that are inside serving life sentences. 1 out of every 5 of us have a life sentence inside. I still consider myself a lifer. But that isn't what I really want to focus on today. I'm so proud that law enforcement, LEAP, a group that has a national brand, supports this bill, the elder bill, and the additional bill, fair and timely. I'm so proud that the Council of Churches in New York State, for the first time, supports this bill. Both of them. I'm so proud that over 300 organizations in New York State, for the first time, stand together in unison to bring my colleagues, my peers, my friends home. For the first time in New York State history, we got legislators that are no longer gatekeepers, but liberators, that are speaking for their communities. We want a government for the people, by the people, and of the people. We need to close this chapter that for 5 decades we have been on a train of punishment. The trump card has always been, out of 8 factors that the parole board could consider, the original crime. No matter what you achieved, no matter what you did, in some cases, even if the DA and the judges recommended the individual should be released, the parole board still used the trump card, punishment, the original crime. Something that we can never change. If we're going to be true to what our government is supposed to do, we call it correction facilities, not punishment institutions. That's what this bill is about, the fair and timely, an additional bill called the Elder Parole Act. And get this, I'm going to end on this note. Those that are against this bill come from parts of the state that have traditionally benefited from our demise.
Perpetual punishment. They serve the time but continue to pay a